Yeah, I was just moving.
All right. Pasuk He.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom uvracha. Pasuk He. לשמורך מאישה זרה, מנוכריה אמריה החליקה. So we know it started like he usually starts Beni Shmor Amara, Mitzvotai Tispon Itach, right? The whole structure of the Avodat Hashem, the Peshat, the Derash, the Remez, the Sod, like we discussed, and how this applies from a learning perspective and from the application of mitzvot, actions. It says those 4 layers of the Torah, Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod, that you learn and that you implement, right, will help you, will protect you, Lishmocha Mi'isha Zara, will protect you from, will guard you from the forbidden woman. Minochia Amaria Helika, and from the alien woman whose talk is smooth. So, as we know, says the Gaon, who is the Isha Zara, who is the forbidden? Zahimda is the greed. The greed is considered as the forbidden woman. And who's the alien woman? It's the ta'ava, the desire. Like he was mefaresh, right, at length in the earlier perakim. So the limud Torah and the accomplishment of the mitzvot, if it's done with the right structure and in the right way, with the right priorities, then by default it will help you and protect you from the greed and from the desire. Pasuk Vav. כי בחלון ביתי בעד אשנבי נשקפתי. From the window of my house, through my little lattice, from a little hole, I looked out. So there are 2 ways to look out, or to look at something from that is outside of your reach or outside of your environment. Or you look through the window, or you look through the little hole, through the little crack. So he says, כי בחלון ביתי, כמו שכתבנו בפירוש שיר השירים, he says, in שיר השירים he explained that משגיח מן החלונות מציץ מן החרקים, הקדוש ברוך הוא has 2 ways to interact. One is משגיח מן החלונות, he looks through the window, he looks at the old picture, the big picture, things that are more obvious. ומציץ מן החרקים, and he also looks through the little cracks, okay? And he says, if you want to know something that is out there, that is public, you look through out the window. And out the window, you'll see the public space, and you'll see what's happening. And you'll be able to monitor what's going on. But something that's hidden and that's not done in public places, this is not, you cannot look out the window and see it. The opposite. You have to go and find a little crack, okay, the little hole, okay, and look through that hole, and you can see what's happening in a closed place, in a hidden place. He says the same thing. He says the greed takes away the shame of the person to the point that the person will expose his behavior of greed to the public. He's so insensitive to the people around him, and he's also becoming so self-centered because of his greed that it doesn't matter how people see him or look at him or talk about him. So the greed is something you can detect in the behavior of the person without having to dig too much into the real essence of the person. And as we know, he said the greed is a trait that takes away the shalva and the inner peace and the tranquility of a person, right? Because during the day and at night, all he thinks about is how to satisfy this greed and how he will implement his strategy and how he will get to his means and to his ends. However, he says the ta'ava, usually how do you satisfy your ta'ava? The ta'ava, the desire, is satisfy it quietly, in a hidden way. That's something you do on a more private level. So he says that in order to identify it, you really need to dive into the person's behavior. Because on the outside, it might look refined, nice, proper, kind, yes. But in reality, he's hiding his desires, because desires are things that we don't expose. So says the Gaon, if you want, based on the Shlomo Melech, right? Greed is something you should be able to identify right away because of the insensitivity and the selfishness it develops in the person. However, when it comes to the desires and the ta'ava, you really have to dive into it more and into the behavior of the person to actually pinpoint it and identify it, right? So you have to look through the little hole inside the person versus looking out of the window clearly for what's out there. Good for now.
Robert, can you give us an example of like what are you detecting in this greed, this selfishness that you talk about that this person has? I mean, it's like on a day-to-day, how does that like translate? How do we see it?
But for yourself, in yourself or in others?
In ourself, and I guess and in others. We want to stay away from that.
Well, we said that what is the definition of greed is when you lose your priorities and what secondary becomes primary, right? And when you're busy with what other people have versus developing what you have, right? So when you feel you're becoming more arrogant, you're becoming more insensitive to your surrounding, you're becoming more distant, you're becoming more selfish, then you know that this is greed. And the tava is when there's things that you're shy to do in public, that you don't want to do in public, right? Obviously, that are not aligned with the halacha and what's allowed, what's mutar, yes. Then you know that this is you're developing tava. When things you need to you have people, they hide when they eat. They don't want to be seen when they eat. That's tava. That's tava. And then any other type of tava, of desire. And the same thing with others, yes? When you see the behavior of someone in public, and you see the guy is pompous, you see the guy is arrogant, you see the guy it has no sensitivity to the people around, and he can just talk and talk, or about himself, or about his projects, or about what he wants to do, or what he's doing, or what he owns, right? Without any humility. When you see the person is all about me, I, and all the conversations is around revolves around the person, then you know that there's, this guy, it shows signs of selfishness. His priorities are off. All he cares about is himself. He doesn't have any sense, retention to care about the people around him. And that's pretty obvious, yeah. Then you know that it's the person is being consumed by greed. Now, what does greed do, and what are the outcomes of it, and the collateral damages? We've learned that in the last packet. He's going to talk about it again a little bit more now, but it's pretty self-explanatory once you learn the shiurim. Va'ere bapeta'im, and I saw amongst the simple-minded, Avina babanim, and I understood amongst the young, amongst the Nar chasar lev, Nar, like an adolescent, is almost like an adolescent. Yeah, Nar chasar lev, that's missing heart. That's voiding sensitivity, heart. He says, Va'ere bapeta'im, the simple. Yeah, I saw amongst the simple. He says, you see what is obvious, what is clear, right? Usually when you see what is clear. He says, who is that referring to? To the person that has greed. Because again, it's obvious what he does. He's not hiding anything. So it's something you can identify clearly. He says the Yetzer Hara, the instinct of the person that has greed is to always go after futilities and emptiness that has no toelet, that has no really meaning. This is the definition of greed, right? Again, another layer, the desire and the effort put in something that's futile and that does not have a real meaning and purpose. That's why it says peta'im, simple. Abina babanim, and I understand, right, in the young, in the young boys. It says this is the Bali Ta'ava. The child, where does he live? He lives inside the house, right? A young boy, where does he live? He lives inside the house. Just like the ta'ava resides inside the home, hidden. And like a child, a young boy, what is he motivated by? By his desires. He wants candies, he wants to play, he wants toys, and all these actions are what? Are for immediate satisfaction. The ta'ava is the same thing. It is another layer of definition of the ta'ava is when I need immediate result, immediate satisfaction. So, but since it's something that's more hidden, Shlomo HaMelech used the word bina to understand, not re'iyah, not to see. See is obvious, is out there, is public. Bina is just something you have to understand. The ta'ava, the desire, is a trait that you need to is a trait that you need to identify, to pick up on, to think about, to analyze. He says, and, as we know, is that the ta'avot, the desires, they start with something that's allowed, right? That's something that's mutar. And slowly you deviate and you take a tangent to things that are surim. So he says the same thing. They confuse you. They sweet in the beginning, but the end result is bitter. So that's why they're called banim. That's why they're called children. In the beginning, the children are soft and sweet and loving and fun. But as the children grow, right, the education and the challenges become more and more bitter. He said the same thing is with the ta'avot. In the beginning, it's sweet. In the beginning, it's at home. It's something you control, something that's that you try, you want to satisfy, but eventually, at the end, it becomes bigger than you, and it starts breaking you. That's like a child that's not raised properly with the right midot, and then that is raised only based on his desires. It's a question of time before the child won't even look at you and will impose himself upon you and will impose his desires. And if you don't give in, like you gave in when he was young, then who are you? You're not the father that educated me. And the sweetness of the pleasure of giving into the desire when they're young turns into a bitter experience and a destructive experience. Na'ar Hasar Lev said the adolescent, in this case, is representative of the greed. Why? Because an adolescent has the responsibility of a child, but wants to have the actions of an adult. Yeah? An adolescent wants to behave like an adult, but he wants the responsibility of it. He wants to be responsible like a child. He doesn't want any responsibilities. So he says that's exactly the behavior of somebody that has greed. He wants to be able to do whatever he wants. He thinks he can do whatever he wants, but he's so self-centered that he wants to take no responsibility of the collateral damage he's causing around him. As long as I get what I want and I get what I need, or what I think I need, I don't care the damages around. I'm not responsible. The name of the game. And like an adolescent, yeah, he doesn't have no days, no night. Because the day he has responsibilities of school and of learning to work, and at night he wants to have fun, right? So an adolescent suddenly, even during the night, he doesn't rest. He doesn't want to rest. He wants to continuously be active and do whatever satisfies him. So the nar is representative of the greed. Chasar lev, and lacking the heart, it's neged the baalei ta'ava, is representative of the ones that have the desires. He says chasar lev, somebody that's missing the heart. What does it mean you're missing the heart? When do you know that a person misses the heart? At the end. In the beginning, you see a behavior, but you don't believe, right? That at the end result, like the guy, it can be so detached and cruel. So the ta'ava is the same thing. In the beginning, it dances with you, but the end result of the desire is as cruel as it gets, because it doesn't allow you to see the end.
Sorry, that last part is the chasar lev. Are we going back on
The
the
ta'ava.
on the ta'avot? Okay.
Yes. Pasuk Het. עובר בשוק אצל פינה. He's going through the shuk, right? So the public place near her corner, פינה, with a dagesh in the hair, near her corner, the corner of the shuk. בדרך ביתה יצעד, and he's walking towards her house. The Gaon comes and gives a fundamental lesson. He says, we know that the Yetzer Hara cannot touch a person and cannot control a person unless the person goes outside. What does it mean the person goes outside? It exposes himself to the Yetzer Hara. What does that mean? The following. You are not going to have Yetzer Hara of food if you expose yourself to food. You will not develop Yetzer Hara of women unless you expose yourself to women. And you will not have a Yetzer Hara of money unless you expose yourself to money. This being said, the Yetzer Hara has a plan, has a system to its behavior. First, olech, something that comes and goes. Then it becomes an oreach. It becomes a guest. It's more, you're more accustomed to it. It comes more often, and you're more comfortable with it. And eventually, it's becoming ish. He's becoming somebody important, prominent, a real essence and a real presence. He says the same thing at the beginning. The Yetzer Hara, once you expose yourself to something, what does he do? Over Bashuk, it says in the beginning, it crosses your mind, a thought. It's only a thought. I'm only thinking. No actions. About thinking. Over Bashuk. Now, why the Yetzer Hara starts with the mind? Because the Yetzer Hara knows that if you start being busy thinking about other things, you're being distracted from Torah. And there's a rule. The Torah tells us, if you leave me 1 day, I will leave you 2 days. So the Yetzer Hara wants to create a disconnect with the Torah, with the protection of the Torah. So what does he do? You've been exposed. So now I'm gonna get you busy with your thoughts. And by thinking about it, now you're disconnected from the Torah. If you're disconnected from the Torah disconnects itself from you. So now you are more vulnerable. And that's etzel. Again, that's what it means by etzel pinah. Now suddenly you're vulnerable, and the Yetzer Hara will expose you to one action. A corner. It's something that has an end, right? The pinah, it's something that's it's limited. It's a corner is a small place, small action, remote, disconnected. One. And he gets you there. And you're like, wow, one mistake. Okay, I have to get back on track. It's only a mistake. Yeah. But what the person doesn't know is that that's part of the plan of the Yetzer Hara, says the Gaon. Because eventually, eventually he's going to end. He entered. Now we don't know, but he's already in. And now he's going to consume you from inside to slowly, slowly turn that desire into something that it's a need. And at the end, that mistake, that failure becomes like the Baal Bait, comes in and out as free. The person will start thinking and doing as if it's normal. And he cannot live without it. So again, to resume, the Yetzer Hara needs 4 things. First, number 1, that you are exposed. This is why Chachamim of our generation and throughout the generations are so makpidim, they're so careful about what we expose our children to. And why the environment is so important, the community is so important. This is why we're so careful with what the tools we give our kids at home, the phones, the TV, we think, you're disconnected from the reality. It's not about that. It's about what it's opening them and exposing them to vulnerabilities they will not have control over. So the exposure. And that us also, if we know that we are sensitive or we are vulnerable to a certain ta'ava or to a certain khulsha, a certain weakness, we have to make sure that we're never exposed. And we have to be mahmirim, we have to be very careful to put the right boundaries. Because that's the breach. After that, the thought. When you find yourself thinking about something that is not right, no, that's part of a bigger plan. It's not only a thought. Remediate right away to shut it down and get it out of your system. Because then it's a remote action that will make the Yetzer Hara will make sure you know it's remote. You will think it's one-off. Nothing to do. It's not the pattern. It's not the behavior. It's one-off. That's how the Yetzer Hara plays with the mind to eventually get to the place where ani ba'al bayit, I'm in control. And you're going to start doing this without any hard feeling. You're going to do it naturally. That's it. It's part of me. That is the derech of the Yetzer Hara. So we're going to stop here. Be'ezrat Hashem. We finished Pasuk Chet.
Rabbi, the 3rd step is where you do it more often, and then the 4th step is where it becomes the balabait.
He meaning like this. The Yetzer Hara is a 3-step. He gets to you on a 3 level. The first level you have to do. That's why it's 4 steps. The first step is that you expose yourself. Once you expose yourself and you're out there, then he kicks in. And then he has 3 steps, right? Machshava, gets you to think about it. Remote action, event. And eventually, gets you more and more into it, like another remote until it becomes natural and part of your behavior.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much.
Be'ahava.
Then they said that Freud made a psychology.
What?
And then they say that Sigmund Freud brought the psychology.
Yeah. They say, because they don't
say.
have any access to the Torah.
It's crazy,
No, but they found a lot of Rambam books in Freud that he took everything like from the Rambam.
Oh,
all the things. I will send it to you, Rabbi. Like what he have, I will search it. He had some few
incredible.
Rambam books about all the
גנבים,
between the
כולם גנבים בני
neshama and things
גנבים.
like that. So he gave it some sentence.
Yeah.
גנבים.
גנבים בני גנבים. Everything about them is about is גנבה. גנבת דעת, גנבת הכל. גזל, הכל גזל.
חזק וברוך.
Have a great day,
ברוכים
everybody.
תהיו כולכם בעזרת
תודה
השם.
רבה.
Rabbi,
Yes.
it's great to be back.
Yes. Definitely. But if you follow the parasha also, we've been
That
we
hasn't
finished
stopped.
all Vayishlach. Now we're in Vayeshev hard. Good. Eran started
Okay.
Vayeshev itanu.
It's good.
I haven't been following the parasha.
Okay, בעזרת השם. It's uploaded, don't worry.
I know
Thank you, Rav. Have a good day.
בהצלחה.
Bye,
See you
bye,
tomorrow
Bye,
בעזרת
Brian.
השם.
Good to see you. Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Eran.
you.